Samurai Nippon. The fall of the Heike from glory to downfall.
Have you ever imagined witnessing the moment when a single clan rises to the pinnacle of history in magnificent Heian-era Kyoto? That clan was the Heike. Despite their warrior status, they infiltrated the imperial court and seized power that everyone envied. If you are not of the Heike, you are not human. There was a time when these words echoed throughout the capital, but surely you know the saying, pride comes before a fall. The story of the Heike clan, who vanished into the sea, like scattered foam just years after reaching their zenith. Why does it still stir our hearts more than 800 years later? Come, let's embark on a journey together to discover why the Heike fell, exploring the turning points of their fate, and the true causes that led to their downfall.
Before we begin, please hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. It helps our content reach you better.
Chapter 1. The Origins of the Genji and Heike and Taira.
No Kiyomori's rise to power. The Genji and the Heike, symbols of rivalry deeply etched in our minds. But did you know the blood flowing through these two warrior clans actually came from the same source? The Heike descended from Emperor Kanmu, while the Genji were children of Emperor Saga. Both were of imperial lineage, but were removed from the imperial family registry to become warrior houses. Though of royal blood, they were destined to live by the sword and bow. In society at that time, nobles held absolute power. In such a world, warrior status was low, and entering the imperial court seemed an impossible dream. Yet Taira no Tadamori, Kiyomori's father, was one who made the impossible possible. He became the first warrior ever to set foot in the Seiryodan, the emperor's residence. Can you imagine Tadamori, a warrior, walking among nobles in their fragrant robes, the cold stares he received, the mockery whispered behind his back? Still, he kept his head high and continued forward. And Tadamori's son, Kiyomori, aimed even higher. He married his daughter to Emperor Takakura, and when his grandson, Emperor Antoku, ascended the throne, Kiyomori wielded power as the emperor's maternal relative. Just as Fujiwara no Michinaga once did, becoming an imperial relative meant standing at the pinnacle of power. Kiyomori amassed numerous estates and provinces, with wealth surpassing even the Fujiwara clan. While building his foundation on warrior strength, his prosperity exceeded even that of the nobles. Can you grasp what Kiyomori must have felt at this peak moment?
Chapter 2. The Birth of the Heike Regime.
And conflict with retired Emperor Go-Shirakawa. To gain a seat of power is to make enemies. The person who felt most threatened by the Heike's expanding power was retired Emperor Go-Shirakawa. In 1177, conspiracies swirled in the quiet darkness of night. The monk Shunkan and others close to Go-Shirakawa were plotting to overthrow the Heike, but information leaked. It reached Kiyomori's ears and the plan failed. Then in 1179, when anti-Heike movements centered around the retired emperor came to light, Kiyomori made an astonishing decision. He took the drastic measure of confining Go-Shirakawa at Toba Palace and stripping many nobles, including the chancellor, of their positions at once. Can you imagine the unprecedented audacity of imprisoning a retired emperor, the father of the current emperor? What expressions must have crossed the faces of the capital's residents upon hearing this news? Thus, the retired emperor's conspiracy was crushed, and Kiyomori seized power himself. This was the moment when Japan's first warrior-led government was born. Yet who could have imagined that this decision would seal the Heike's fate?
Chapter 3. Prince Mochihito's Uprising and the Genji Rebellion.
Haven't you felt it before? That quiet anger toward those who monopolize power, which eventually explodes? Opposition to the Heike's tyranny smoldered quietly in corners of the capital and in remote mountain provinces. Then in 1180, wind fanned the flames. Kiyomori installed his own grandson as Emperor Antoku. This decision would change one man's life forever, Prince Mochihito, son of retired Emperor Go-Shirakawa. By rights, he should have been the next emperor, but that path was blocked by Kiyomori. Try to imagine Prince Mochihito's feelings. The frustration and anger of being born the son of an emperor, yet having that destiny snatched away. He made his choice to rise against the Heike with the help of the Genji clan. Minamoto no Yorimasa supported Prince Mochihito. Answering Yorimasa's call to arms were Minamoto, no Yoritomo and Minamoto no Yoshinaka. Thus began the Genpei War. The conflict spread across the country, eventually developing into a 5-year civil war. The turning point came at the Battle of Fujigawa. Kiyomori sent a large army to Fujigawa to crush Yoritomo, but something strange happened. Suddenly, ducks took flight, and startled by the sound, the Heike forces began to retreat. A single moment in nature changed Japanese history. The flutter of ducks' wings set the wheel of the Heike's fate turning dramatically. Victorious in this battle, Yoritomo heeded his warrior advisors and prioritized securing the Kanto region, rather than marching on Kyoto. Meanwhile, the Heike returned to the capital and took revenge on the Nara temples that had supported Prince Mochihito, burning Kofukuji and Tadaiji's Great Buddha Hall to ashes. If Yoritomo had pursued Kiyomori, then perhaps the Heike's fortunes would have been different. But history has no what-ifs. From this time on, the Heike regime rapidly approached its sunset. Kiyomori fell to a mysterious illness and disaster upon disaster, including a great famine struck the Heike.
Chapter 4. Prelude to the Heike's downfall. Kiyomori's death.
And Yoshinaka's rise. In 1181, shock ran through the capital. The Heike leader Kiyomori had fallen to an unexplained fever. His death was extraordinarily harrowing. The tale of the Heike tells us that after falling ill, not a drop of water could pass Kiyomori's throat, and his body radiated heat like flame. The area 6 meters around him became a scorching hell, with hardly anyone able to attend him. He could only cry out, "Hot, hot!" Can you imagine it? Kiyomori dying alone in agony, as if engulfed in flames. They brought sacred water from a mountain temple and placed Kiyomori in a stone tub to cool him. But the water turned to boiling broth. Writhing in pain, crawling around in agony, Kiyomori finally breathed his last, 20 days after falling ill. This is the tale of the Heike's account, but similar descriptions appear in Migetsuki, the diary of the nobleman Fujiwara no Teika. It records that Kiyomori, on the verge of death, suffered from high fever, writhed in agony, and died screaming. The people of the time whispered, "This is divine punishment for imprisoning retired Emperor Go-Shirakawa and burning down the temples." Kiyomori's wife, Tokiko, reportedly dreamed that demons from hell were coming to take her husband. Modern medicine might attribute Kiyomori's illness to malaria or heat stroke, but to the people of that era, it clearly appeared as heavenly retribution, the result of accumulated resentment. After Kiyomori's death, the Heike's fortunes rapidly declined. In 1183, Minamoto no Yoshinaka brilliantly defeated the Heike army at Kurikara Pass in the north. Then Minamoto no Yoshitsune's forces won victory after victory at Ichinotani and Yashima, finally cornering the Heike at Dan-no-ura on the western edge of Japan. Then came the final fateful battle at Dan-no-ura. As the battle reached its end, the Heike forces collapsed completely. Here, Kiyomori's wife Tokiko, clutching the child Emperor Antoku, threw herself into the sea. The Heike clan members followed, sinking one after another into the depths. Staining the sea red, the Heike closed the curtain on their glory.
Chapter 5. The true reasons behind the Heike's fall.
Why did the Heike fall in this way? Complex factors intertwined beyond simple battlefield defeat. Let's explore these true causes together.
Reason 1. The fatal decision to base in Ise.
Today we associate the Genji with Eastern Japan and the Heike with Western Japan, but this is history's irony. Originally, it was the exact opposite. The Genji initially based themselves in the Kinai region near Kyoto. Meanwhile, the Heike, like Taira no Masakado and Taira no Tadatsune, had been expanding their influence in the Kanto region. However, during Minamoto no Yoriyoshi's time, the Genji began winning support from Eastern warriors. By Minamoto no Yoshi's era, they had established a strong power base in the east. Yoritomo's father, Yoshitomo, also built substantial power in the east, bringing Kanto warriors under his command one after another. Conversely, during Taira no Tadamori's time, the Heike made the decisive move from Kanto to Ise. Why? Because the sea route from Ise to eastern Japan was flourishing. The Heike excelled in business acumen. They capitalized on maritime profits and grew into the warrior group, known as the Ise Heike. But herein lay the Heike's fatal misjudgment. The true heartland of warriors remained the Kanto region. No matter how much economic power the Heike possessed, they could never match the military might of the Kanto warriors. As a result, the Heike lost the support of the Kanto warriors and were ultimately defeated by the Genji. In warfare, sometimes martial valor outweighs business acumen.
Reason 2. losing warrior support through arrogance.
During Kiyomori's time, the Heike were unstoppable. Yet their prosperity gradually became the cause of losing warrior support. The Heike were warriors too. Initially, they enjoyed passionate support from warriors nationwide. But after achieving success and controlling even the imperial court, they rapidly aristocratized themselves. They monopolized court positions, amassed vast estates, and hoarded wealth. How would you feel in this situation? Aren't they supposed to be connecting us warriors to the court? It was natural for surrounding warriors to start thinking this way. Complaints rose from everywhere, and warriors' hearts turned away from the Heike. For warriors of that time, land was second only to life in importance. As the phrase retainer's devotion suggests, they dedicated their lives to increasing and protecting their territories. In an era when warriors were becoming central to society, they sought a government that would protect their lands. But the Heike regime pursued only its own interests. Perhaps it was inevitable that warriors' hearts would drift away.
Reason 3. The arrogance of, if not Heike, not human.
You've likely heard this phrase before: if you are not of the Heike, you are not human. Recorded in the tale of the Heike as words of Taira no Tokitada, this famous quote symbolizes the Heike's arrogance. The original text says, "Those not of this clan are not human," meaning, without being part of the Heike clan, one cannot gain high status and taste this world's prosperity. Imagine the arrogance of this statement, the audacity to declare that people outside the Heike are not human. It's not hard to imagine how such attitudes intensified antagonism toward the Heike. Power sometimes blinds people. The Heike were no exception.
Reason 4. Conflict with retired Emperor Go-Shirakawa and a string of misfortunes.
On history's stage, personal conflicts sometimes create major turning points. For the Heike, deteriorating relations with retired Emperor Go-Shirakawa became a fatal juncture. Initially, Go-Shirakawa and Kiyomori had a good relationship, but when Kiyomori rose to the position of chancellor, the highest official rank, the retired emperor's displeasure grew. He likely harbored thoughts like, "for a mere warrior too." Then came a decisive event. Kiyomori married his daughter to Emperor Takakura, and when a long-awaited prince was born in 1178, he strongly pressured the retired emperor, "Make this child the next emperor." Go-Shirakawa's anger peaked. When Kiyomori's adopted son Shigemori died, the retired emperor took the unprecedented step of confiscating all his lands. This enraged Kiyomori. Leading his forces to intimidate the retired emperor, he ultimately suspended the retired emperor's authority and imprisoned him. Do you believe in the chain of coincidences that moves history? Misfortunes piled up for the Heike. From the time Kiyomori imprisoned the retired emperor, calamity after calamity struck the Heike. First, his adopted son Shigemori died. Then Emperor Takakura, who had Kiyomori's daughter as his consort, passed away. Finally, in 1181, Kiyomori himself succumbed to a mysterious fever. Having lost Kiyomori, their powerful leader, the Heike regime faltered and rapidly lost its center of gravity. Combined with the Genji rebellion, the Heike swiftly walked the path to decline. Sometimes history changes course through a chain of coincidences beyond human comprehension, steering in unexpected directions.
Reason 5. The Yowa famine and the East-West division.
War requires not just soldiers, but provisions. Natural forces also afflicted the Heike. In 1181, the Yowa famine struck western Japan, an unprecedented disaster said to have claimed over 40,000 lives in Kyoto alone. The Heike faced the Genji uprising at this worst possible time. Can you imagine? The morale of an army forced to fight while barely able to feed themselves. Perhaps this explains why the Heike forces so easily retreated at the Battle of Fujigawa. And here's an even more ironic twist of fate: this famine had absolutely no effect on eastern Japan. In fact, the East enjoyed a rare bumper harvest. While western Japan's crops withered under severe heat and drought, eastern Japan experienced perfect growing conditions, a fateful divergence created by Japan's lengthy archipelago. The fortunes of the Heike and Genji were even influenced by nature's whim. From the famine-stricken west to the bountiful east, Minamoto no Yoritomo seized the opportunity. He sent large quantities of rice to western Japan under the pretext of food aid, and in return, skillfully negotiated for the court to recognize his authority over eastern Japan. This was a crucial step toward the later establishment of the Kamakura shogunate. This event teaches us how the perfect combination of luck and strategy can drive historical change.
Reason 6. Leadership vacuum after Kiyomori.
After a great leader dies, his successor's capabilities are tested. A major factor in the Heike's downfall was the leadership deficiency of Kiyomori's successor, Minamoto. Kiyomori's son Minamoto is remembered as somewhat incompetent. Born as Tokiko's second son, he was raised with privilege due to his mother's prestigious family background. He was essentially pampered from childhood. Minamoto served in various roles as Kiyomori's right hand. He was sent to court as Emperor Go-Shirakawa's close attendant and helped mediate court conflicts. However, his limitations became apparent in crisis situations requiring decisive action and execution. When Minamoto no Yoshinaka's forces defeated the Heike army at Kurikara Pass, Minamoto tried to flee west with retired Emperor Go-Shirakawa and Emperor Antoku. But Go-Shirakawa, detecting this plan in advance, escaped from Minamoto. This incident reveals that Minamoto wasn't trusted even within the Heike. Minamoto's weakness was also exposed in the final battle at Dan-no-ura. After the defeat, he attempted suicide but failed, and ultimately was captured along with his son Kiyomune after being pulled from the sea. Taken to Kamakura, Minamoto desperately begged for his life before Yoritomo, reportedly disgusting him. In the end, his pleas were in vain, and Minamoto was executed. A son living in the shadow of his universally renowned father. The pressure of succeeding Kiyomori must have been extraordinary. Nevertheless, history judges Minamoto harshly. His lack of leadership was the final trigger for the Heike's downfall.
Final chapter. Glory and downfall. The lesson.
What have you felt from this story? The Heike's glory lasted barely 20 years, and the time to their downfall was even shorter. 6 factors intricately intertwined, sometimes with fortune's mischief added in, and the Heike sank to the bottom of the sea. From the pinnacle where it was said, if not Heike, not human, to becoming the symbol of impermanence with the sound of the Gion, Shoja bells echoes the impermanence of all things. Why does this story still move our hearts across 1,000 years? Perhaps because it reflects the essential nature of humanity, the arrogance of those who achieved glory, the thirst for power, the irony of fate, and above all, the truth of impermanence, that all things must eventually end. It's said that history repeats itself. What lesson should we learn from the Heike's downfall? It continues to be passed down, not merely as a tale of martial valor, but as a warning to those in power, and as a valuable guide for each of our lives. The story of the Heike has ended, but its lessons will continue to live in our hearts.
Please share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching until the end. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button.